The highway, straight as if its roadworks were marked with a thread, ran ahead and was lost in the elevations of the American Southwest. In the distance, behind the rolling plain, a low mountain ridge hunched, its slopes covered with a fringe of pine forest. The southern side of the nearby hills seemed to be covered in fresh blood. This was the wild Macaca poppy in bloom. A rare patch in the steppe would be without it. A crimson tablecloth with numerous specks of yellow, orange, lilac, and blue flowers stretched for many miles on both sides of the highway to the horizon. Spring here is short-lived. All this beauty will burn out in a week, and only the bare steppe will remain with tumbleweeds and stunted, prickly bushes. A Peterbilt truck with a long trailer and semi-trailer pulled off the road and lonely pressed its side against a low hill. The engine purred quietly at idle, then fell silent. The ensuing silence at first seemed dead, but soon it was brought to life by the sounds of the steppe. The rustling of the wind, the cry of a high-circling golden eagle. "I don't understand anything," said Victor, slapping the steering wheel with his palm. "According to the map, we've already passed Red Mesa, but I didn't see a single house." Stephen, awakened by his nervous partner, got up from the bunk and sat down, placing his bare feet on the seat. Sleepily, he looked at the navigator screen and at the map spread out under the windshield, over which hung various truckers' amulets and charms. He looked from it to the steppe landscape outside the window and back again several times, trying to orient himself. There was nothing to latch onto. What kind of houses? There should be 5-story buildings there. And where did it go? Stephen scoffed and yawned with a smirk. "What kind of nonsense is this? Where have you led us, Benedict Arnold? Are you sure you didn't mess anything up? How could I get lost here?" Victor asked indignantly. "There's only one road, straight as an arrow." For some reason, the navigator wasn't working, showing some gibberish. If you believed it, the truck was on Interstate 40, not far from Shady Creek, but there should be a lake nearby, and Lake Powell was nowhere to be seen. And they couldn't have ended up there, even if they had really wanted to. "Do you even pay attention to the navigator?" Stephen grumbled discontentedly. Victor swore, staring at the screen. "It was working, I think. I remember it was definitely working, and now it's not." Stephen took the map and, smoothing out the folds, placed it on his knees. In the folds, it wrinkled and crumpled again, showing a ridge of light brown mountains on the edge of the steppe. Stephen picked a cigarette out of the pack with his fingernail, took it out, and lit it with a lighter. He remained silent, examining the straight line of the highway, dropping ash onto the map. A gray snow covered the drawn yellowish steppe. "So, you're saying that Red Mesa should be behind us?" he finally asked. And like a fire-breathing dragon, he exhaled a stream of bluish smoke from his mouth. Victor nodded and also reached for a cigarette. "And did you pass this fork in the road?" Stephen's finger poked the map. "I did," Victor replied, although he wrinkled his brow and stared at the fork pressed by Stephen's fingernail. He automatically lit up, puffed once or twice. The fork looked like a pitchfork. It was located at the foot of an ancient burial mound. Victor remembered this hill, under which perhaps lay the bodies of nomads who died in an ancient skirmish. Victor stared at this damn fork without blinking. "I don't remember," he said. "It seems like it was there, and at the same time, it wasn't. Do you have amnesia or something?" Stephen asked. He always pronounced the word amnesia that way. "Amnesia? I don't know. I remember it like it's in a fog." Victor took a deep drag and exhaled smoke right onto the map, and a morning fog swirled over the steppe, which was lightly sprinkled with gray tobacco ash. "Do you remember anything at all?" Stephen was getting angry. Which road did you turn onto? Seems like I took the right one, Victor replied. Or maybe the left one? It's strange. I remember almost nothing. It's like I just woke up, stopped by the burial mound, went to take a leak, and then drove on. I remember we had a maximum of an hour and a half to drive to Red Mesa. And then I looked at the time and was stunned. I'd been driving for 5 hours nonstop. Uh-huh, my friend, Stephen noted. Look how much diesel is left. Almost at the bottom. You weren't driving for 5 hours, but a lot more, and you didn't wake me up. Right, Victor replied dejectedly. The tanks are almost empty. This is the end. It turns out we passed Juniper Creek. And where do we go from here? South or north? I don't know. Look, the navigator. The picture on the screen suddenly changed. The road shifted to the right, flew off the screen, and a new one appeared, but without any labels. Can't figure it out, Stephen said. Where is this? In Red Mesa. They were supposed to refuel, rest, leave some of the cargo, and move on. But it looks like they're lost. The picture on the screen shifted again. This time, the road jerked somewhere to the north, and a new route loaded. Destination, Crestwood. Distance, 100 miles. Did you program the route? Stephen asked. I didn't do anything. It did it itself. The navigator? Tell that to your grandma. Do you remember this place? I don't remember. Damn, they hire idiots off the street, and then you have to suffer with them. But I really didn't do anything. Okay, be quiet. Stephen looked at the map again and said, Crestwood, I remember being here about 5 years ago. Okay, now I know where we are. So we went south. This town isn't on the maps. It's considered classified. Why the hell did it appear on the route then? We need to go in a completely different direction. Victor shrugged and mumbled. I don't know. It did it all by itself. I'm telling you, I didn't touch it. I don't remember anything at all. Oh, God gave me a partner, Stephen said. Not only is he an idiot, but he's also an amnesiac, and this damn navigator. I didn't want to get this Chinese junk. Now I have to deal with it. Okay, we can refuel in Crestwood. We'll just have to get off the highway. If the navigator glitches again, here's the map. You'll turn here. Stephen pointed with his finger. There's a dirt road here, an old beaten track. You won't miss it. Have you been to Crestwood? Victor continued to look at the map in confusion, not understanding how this could have happened. He wasn't a sleepwalker to drive while asleep, but it turned out he had been driving in his sleep, because he remembered almost nothing. Damn, this is what working without days off and without rest leads to. You can lose your mind. No, after this trip, I need to take a good rest, go to the beach. I've never even heard of it, Victor said. It must be a small town. Not really. I used to go there often, a long time ago. There's a scientific institute there, a past system. I used to deliver metal parts for some kind of devices. I think they were conducting experiments on people. Something like that. He heard it on the grapevine. In short, I don't know any more about this town than you do. It's not even on the maps. Will they let us in? You said it's a past system. Victor looked up from the map. Yeah, they'll let us refuel. They're not animals. They won't leave people to die in the steppe. But they won't even let you stop there. As soon as a car stops on the highway, a pickup truck immediately drives up, and there are soldiers in the towers all along the highway. They definitely wouldn't have let you take a leak there. Except in your pants, maybe? The diesel engine rumbled dully. The Peterbilt jerked and started moving. Victor pulled off the shoulder and drove the heavy truck forward, continuing to ponder his recent state. Had he fallen asleep at the wheel, or had something been damaged in his head? It was strange. It seemed like there was someone else in the cab besides him and Stephen. He shook off the unpleasant feeling and began to watch the road. About 10 minutes later, they saw an overturned semi-trailer refrigerator next to the road. A Scania was lying on its side. It was clear that the truck had flown off the highway at a decent speed. The cab had plowed a furrow about 15 feet long, deep enough to sow bread in. The side wall of the trailer was opened as if by a giant can opener, and wooden boxes were scattered around. A strange feeling was born in Victor's chest, as if he had recently seen this or a similar scene. Where could he have seen it? Victor stopped the Peterbilt, and they both got out to inspect the Scania. The people apparently needed help. The first thing that caught their eye was the contents of the scattered boxes: rotten, dried tomatoes. They had been lying under the sky for more than a day. This meant that the accident didn't happen today or yesterday. Although this thought was only fully formed later. Right now, they weren't thinking about it. Then Victor noticed that poppies and weedy grass, which would fill the whole world if given a chance, were growing through the wheel rims. The grass-covered wheels confirmed the idea that the truck had flown off the road not yesterday. Victor said nothing. He knew that Stephen had most likely thought the same thing. When they looked into the cab, thinking they would see a dead driver, they noticed that it was empty. And only then did Stephen discover two small mounds next to the trailer. Two of them. Truckers always work in pairs. Damn, does anyone ever come here? Victor asked anxiously. People were just buried, and no one knows about it. That's why it seemed strange to me that the highway was so deserted, not a single car. Yeah, this is all strange. We're already driving through a restricted area. The water was not very cold, but the fizzing gas was refreshingly crisp on the palate. Someone standing up ahead, Stephen said. Slow down. An old man in gray rags was standing on the side of the road, leaning on a huge shovel. The Peterbilt, with a hiss of brakes, stopped. The old man turned his back to the road and looked at the cemetery. Hey, old man, is the gas station working? Stephen shouted, sticking his head out the window. The old man didn't answer, didn't even stir. Hey, old man, can you hear me? Getting no answer, Stephen opened the door and jumped to the ground, touching the old man on the shoulder, and he slowly turned around. Holy crap! Stephen swore and recoiled from the old man. In fact, he was a young man no older than 40, his face exhausted by some strange disease, with hanging scabs. It looked like a badly peeled boiled potato. Deeply sunken round eyes with yellow pupils stared through Stephen. A comb hadn't touched his dirty hair in a long time, but it seemed it wouldn't be needed anymore. The hair didn't hold onto the diseased skin, in places exposing his skull. What's wrong with you? Stephen asked in a hoarse voice. Leave, the man hissed. Run, you still have time. The grave has already been dug. One of you will lie in it. Do you need help? Run, the man repeated. Jam Saw Ren is close now. The deity comes every night. Blood-red hair blows in the wind. The Red Keeper, an evil warrior, will devastate the land. He has already begun the final war. So you definitely don't need help. The man laughed convulsively. Even I can't help myself anymore. And you certainly can't. Stephen realized it was useless to talk to him and climbed back into the cab. Remember, the sooner you leave this place, the better for you, the man shouted. Jam Saw Ran, or Own Sakias, as the redhead is also called, has been awakened and is thirsty for blood. The god of war, the evil Jam-Saran, has once again taken up arms, dressed in red armor. "Let's go," Stephen said. "Crazy. I've been afraid of them since childhood." The Peterbilt started moving, spitting a portion of exhaust smoke into the face of the unfortunate man. In the mirror, he could see the man threatening the sky with his shovel and, with his head raised, screaming something. "What's wrong with his face?" Victor asked. "I don't know. I hope it's not contagious." The crazy man disappeared behind a low hill, but Stephen still saw the disfigured, sick, tired face in front of him, and a thin, hoarse voice rattled in his ears. The cemetery lay in two wide strips on both sides of the road, and it seemed that the whole world around had turned into one big burial ground, and there was no one left alive on earth but Victor, Stephen, and the deranged man. On the outskirts of Crestwood, there was an abandoned gas station with wrecked pumps. Some of them were torn out of the concrete, with their roots, so to speak, as if a tank had driven through. "We're refueled," Stephen said with annoyance. "All we need is to get stuck in this madhouse." "I didn't want to turn here. I had a feeling about it," Victor noted. "We should have stayed on the highway. We would have met someone." "I'm afraid we wouldn't have. I have a feeling it's the same there." "Okay, what's the use of talking? Let's turn around and see." The Peterbilt drove into the territory of the wrecked gas station, passed by the destroyed pumps, and got back on the road, but in the opposite direction. Victor pulled over to the side and turned off the engine. It turned out that they had miscalculated, and the diesel wouldn't even be enough to get to the highway. "Look!" Victor poked his finger at the navigator screen. Stephen saw the inscription that lit up. "Route finished. No road ahead." "Some kind of nonsense. I'm glad I won't ever buy this Chinese garbage again," Stephen said. "Let's go look for some diesel." They took a jerrycan each and went to look. Maybe they could drain some fuel from somewhere. "Good grief! What could have happened here?" Stephen exclaimed. "It's not like a war happened here." The whole town was in a state of terrible desolation. Not a single dog was visible, not to mention people. "You said there was some kind of institute in Crestwood," Victor said. "Maybe they closed it down and all the work was stopped, or there was an accident and the entire population was evacuated." "Evacuated? That's where everyone was evacuated to." Stephen nodded towards the crosses and crescents that filled the cemetery. "The whole town is lying there. People died from some unknown cause, and we're wandering around here with jerrycans. There aren't even any dogs left. Where are all the dogs? Woof woof. They're not here. Either they died with the people or they ran away, sensing something was wrong. Dogs, like cats, know when it's time to run away. But people don't have this ability, and they die in batches." They entered the town and walked along a narrow street past old two-story houses with broken windows and blown-out door frames. Some apartments were scorched by fire, but the smell of smoke had already aired out. Only a layer of soot on the walls spoke of the fires that had raged in the town. The town was abandoned. It was unknown whether people left on their own or were forced to leave the town, but the cemetery showed that no one had gone anywhere, that almost the entire population of Crestwood remained here forever, and the survivors, at least one of them, had gone mad. But who buried everyone? They didn't bury themselves. Were people victims of scientific experiments, or was there an epidemic of some terrible disease in the town, which is not called a disease, but God's punishment? If it's the plague, then it's useless to look for diesel. The town is dead. Stephen didn't notice a shadow of a movement, Only the wind squeaked the shutters in the empty windows and stirred the stunted low bushes. "Listen, Stephen, what if it's the plague?" Victor asked fearfully. "Let's get the hell out of here. We'll refuel and leave. Don't panic." Ahead, a truck was seen that had crashed into a concrete pole. They walked up and saw a low mound next to the crushed cab of the truck, with a shovel stuck into it instead of a cross. The cab smelled of decay. Wrapping their heads in shirts to get rid of the stench, they opened the fuel tank, found a hose, and began to transfer the diesel into the jerrycans. The pungent smell of diesel fuel did not overpower the stench. A voice suddenly came from behind. "Run before it's too late. He's coming. The great deity of antiquity. He is terribly hungry. He needs new lives. He is offended at people for disturbing his slumber. Jam Saw Red is coming to remind people. He is strong. He is thirsty for blood." It was Stephen's recent companion, the crazy young man with the face of an old man. How did he get here so quickly? Victor noticed a bicycle with a shovel tied to the frame, leaning against a delicate fence. "Run, run, in a little while. It will be useless to run. We are the ones who awaken the creature. An explorer, a scientist, yeah, we dug up the remains in ancient burial mounds. Who knew that these were the remains of the god of war himself?" Not paying attention to the insane man, they filled the jerrycans and rushed to the truck. "Don't look back," the crazy man thundered after them. "The end of this town has come. The boil has burst, and the pus has come out. The town is cleansed. Jam Saw Ran is going further. He will cleanse all lands. You let him out, you pigeons. But for now, he is incorporeal. He cannot go any further. He is tied to the burial ground and to the institute. But today, he will find a body, the body of one of you. And then the world will fall. The end will come to everyone." "Yes." They ran to the Peterbilt and, covered in diesel fuel, began to fill the tank. The crazy man, or a true prophet, was hurrying after them. "God is merciful and patient," he shouted. "But patience is not endless. He is all-powerful. But Jam Saw Ran is going into battle. The final war has already begun, in which only one will win, and all the rest will lose." Victor poured the last of the fuel into the tank and put the jerrycan on the cracked asphalt. Stephen closed the lid and headed for the cab. "You awakened Jam Saw Ran, the son of the fierce copper-haired Ikshasa," the crazy man shouted, spitting. "What did you want to achieve?" Sometimes people themselves don't know what they are trying to achieve. "A small town. It is too small for him here. He wants other towns. The end is coming. God will subdue all lands to his will." A lightning bolt suddenly flashed in Victor's head. He remembered everything: the fork, the burial mound, and the one who was waiting for him in that burial mound. The one who dreamed of burning the whole world in the fire of war. The one who longed to appear in this world in the flesh, and not as an incorporeal spirit. The one who was tied to his own grave. "What are you doing?" Stephen asked, opening the cab door. "Come on, hurry up." Victor Jam Saw Ran, the keeper dressed in red armor, bent down, picked up the jerrycan, and, swinging it, hit Stephen on the head with it. He fell, and when he saw a huge man in ancient battle armor, painted the color of blood, bending over him, with a heavy copper sword in his hand, he realized that he had no more than a second to live. Now he knew who the last grave was dug for. Jam Saw Ran put the sword in its scabbard, adjusted his bright red helmet, inlaid with human skulls, and beckoned to the crazy man with his finger. The man, as if in a trance, walked up to him and stopped, lowering his head and squinting to the side. Jam Saw Ran's helmet was a mask of a terrible monster. Bulging eyes, a mouth twisted in rage, sharp fangs. The old man saw the god of war for the first time. Before this, he had only heard commands in his head. "Bury this," the keeper, dressed in red armor, said dully. "And after that, I give you permission to die yourself. The wolves will bury you." He then slammed the door, got into the Peterbilt's cab, and threw the scabbard with the sword onto the seat next to him. The navigator's screen flickered and went out. Gods do not need prompts, especially not prompts from cheap Chinese navigators. Jam saw Rand toward the 7-inch display along with the suction cup and threw it out the window. The engine rumbled dully, throwing a cloud of exhaust in the face of the deranged old man. And Jam saw Rand drove west, loudly singing his favorite battle song. Soon the whole world will drown in blood. The end of the story.